And if you can talk in specific terms about your value proposition. So we just come full circle to the letter, right? The second paragraph is 3 bullet points on 3 specific ideas as to how you're going to bring value, whether you're unemployed or employed, okay? It's kind of the same approach, and I'm saying be proactive about that if you're unemployed or employed. Same thing. So specific ideas, and the operative word here is specific. What some of us have a tendency to do is say, I'm a great team player. I'm very organized. I'm a quick learner.
Dynamic.
That's not value proposition. That is not value proposition. Okay? What they want to see is specific ideas. I have a new idea on how we can change a process that we use, whether it's a manufacturing process or a collections process, that I think will greatly streamline the timeline and bring better results. But you've got to talk about what that process is, right? I had a client who just recently submitted a value proposition letter out in Salt Lake City who suggested, and this was an unemployed person looking to become employed as a very senior level executive, who suggested that one of the things he would do early on if he were hired by this company is create an external focus group, okay, of 5 people who had success in changing their industry and what they would recommend to how to change this company that he's going to work for. In other words, you're sort of benchmarking best practices in a similar situation but in a different industry. And he said, the way I'm going to achieve that is through a focus group. I'm going to create this, but it's going to be an independent 5 people, no agenda. They're not, connected to the company. Now, that's a value proposition idea. Will it work? I don't know. I'm not sure. What I think will work is that's probably going to get him interviewed. They're probably going to say, that's kind of an intriguing idea. Tell us more. The idea all those years of sending a resume was what? What was the goal of sending a resume?
Get the interview.
Get in an interview. I don't know any senior level executive that's been hired because they sent in a resume, right? The CEO didn't look at it and go, whoa, I really like this person. I want you to call him, offer him a job, $250,000 base. I don't think that's ever happened. The whole goal of a resume is to get interviewed. The whole goal of a value proposition letter is to get a business discussion. And what happens when you send a resume, it becomes an interview setter. But if you send a value proposition letter, it's to have a business discussion. It's different than an interview. And you know what happens when you're in an interview and you're the candidate, whether you're employed or unemployed? All the gold is on that side of the table, right? Yep. But if you have presented your value proposition ideas well, it sort of evens up the playing field. It's a business discussion, and that's really what you're seeking there. So those 3 bullet points are just 1 sentence long each. And it has enough detail that the person reading it gets what you're talking about. Focus group to do this, right? New process strategy to improve that by doing these things. Very specific, that the person reading it, the decision maker, can go, that's pretty intriguing. I'm not sure we can do that, but I think it's worth talking to this person. That's pretty intriguing.
Do you mean prepare the detail, or do you come up with an
Idea.
You sort them out. How do you make it happen? For the interview time, you have this idea.
Right.
You need all the details. How does it make it work?
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what I would want to have happen.
$1 million or something.
Yeah, right, right. That's exactly what, if I were the job seeker, that's exactly what I would want to have happen. If I was the employee looking to fortify my position and be seen as bringing value, that's exactly what I would want to have happen. That the decision maker or CEO would come to me and say, tell me more about that idea. So with all that said, I was a job seeker about 15 years ago, kind of towards the end of my corporate days. And I went through this same process and got that business discussion. And I was in the conference room, the CEO's personal conference room attached to their office. And the CEO invited me in and we sat down and he said, I want to learn more about your idea of opening the Rocky Mountain region for our company. Because that was my idea. And why to do it, right? So he said, I want to hear more about that. Well, I got up to the whiteboard. That's what I did. I didn't present a 10-page document. I'm not going to give away all my intellectual capital, right? I'm not going to do that. But I got up to the whiteboard, and I drew it out. And maybe that's just because that's the way I think. You know, I can represent things pretty well that way. I got hired. I don't think it was just that. I think it was more than that. But that's exactly what the goal was. I wanted to have that business discussion. I didn't want to interview. My chances, I don't think anybody's chances are particularly good in an interview. Data shows that. So the third paragraph then, so first paragraph is that little snippet of insight that you're presenting about the company that says to the reader, wow, this person knows something about it, right? The second paragraph, if you will, it's not in a pure paragraph form, is those 3 bullet points, very specific. I can't overemphasize that. It can't be theory, can't be concept. It's very specific. And the third paragraph is really nothing more than a call to action. It's 1 or 2 sentences. So this whole thing fits neatly into a 1-page business letter format. And the call to action is suggesting a time to meet, suggesting a phone conversation to expand on your 3 value proposition ideas. That's what I mean by call to action. So during the last few years that I've been coaching very senior level people, professionals, executives, managers, just like you guys, I've worked with over 700 of you one-on-one over all these years. And I've tracked that success, not in what I would call a scientific way, but pretty accurate, plus or minus 5%. And the accuracy rate I've seen with a value proposition letter in getting you that business discussion is about 40%. Heck of a lot better than 5%, right? Is there risk in it? Of course, one of the questions I get a lot, and maybe some of you are thinking this already, about this idea of presenting a value proposition letter is, why would you want to share all that with them? Why would you want to give them your intellectual capital? Aren't they just going to take it and run? Aren't they just going to say, hey, that's a good idea. Let's go do that. Thanks, Gordon, anyway, but no thanks. Is that a possibility? I guess it is a possibility.
I don't think they think that there's anyone in their company that
well, there you go. That's what I heard a lot. Why haven't we thought of this before, they said. And does that mean I don't have the people that can think like this and actually make this happen? I've even had a couple clients who presented such a letter, heard from the decision maker, had a meeting with them, and they said, you know what? We've actually been talking about doing this a lot in our management meetings. You know those meetings, right? Where you sit around the conference room, you brainstorm, you think you're brilliant, you've got all these ideas, right? You think you're the answer.